Hello, North Stars, and welcome to PSAT 8-9 Proctor Training. You should have in front of you two things, your manual and the study guide that's been created to go along with that manual to help you prepare for that test day. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through the manual itself and help you understand the important parts and what you need to do. You are going to start on part 2 of the manual, which actually begins on page 50. This is the section for proctors and monitors. Part 1 you don't need to worry about. I need to worry about that section. But what this is going to start with is what proctors must do. And you can see I've highlighted some sections throughout. That is to highlight the parts that you need to know. Obviously, you need to know all of it, but some of the more important parts that I want you to pay attention to. And you also see I've crossed out some parts that you are not going to be responsible for. For example, here's the pre-administration session, which we won't be conducting. All right, but on test day, you need to know when and where to report for testing. You need to be familiar with the procedures. You need to do the training that you're doing right now. And then you need to assume responsibility for test materials, prepare the room, administer the test according to directions, complete the seating chart, and return the materials. Please make sure that you do prepare yourself and you take time to study these scripts. There is a testing staff agreement that after you're done with the training, you're going to need to complete the Google form and fill that out so that we know that you have done this and that you are ready to test. If you're testing students with accommodations, please also review those accommodated scripts as they're written in here, and we'll go through that separately. All right, as I said, I crossed off some sections. We're not going to conduct a pre-administration session. So from here, we're going to proceed. Actually, we're going to skip a couple of pages. If you are preparing to administer accommodations, there is a section here on page 53 for you to review. And then you'll see on page 54, we've got the different scripts that are available. So standard time is what most rooms are going to use, or if you have a student that just has breaks as needed. We've got script 2 for extra breaks, time and a half for script 3, double time for script 4, and script 5 is for our pre-recorded audio format. There are some students that will have a combination of scripts. For example, if a student has extended time for math only. Please do take a look at the accommodations for the students that you have in your room and the script that you have been listed as you should use. Make sure that those coincide. If you have a question or you feel that there's an inaccuracy there, please come see me or Sarah right away so that we can make sure that that is correct. All right. So again, during the test, these are the same things that were listed before. You need to make sure you're doing those things. On the test day, there is some information you need to have listed on the board, such as the date, the school code, the address, and our testing room code. Your testing room code will be listed on your roster and on the cover sheet that you'll receive when you pick up your materials. All right, when you do pick up your materials, you're going to receive a room roster, a testing room materials report form that you will need to completely fill out. We will have some of the information listed there in terms of which tests we're giving you, and you will need to indicate which ones are used, which ones are unused, and then you'll need to sign that when you return it. You'll receive test books, answer sheets, some other items that you'll receive as well. There's multiple times where you need to count the books. There's some of them are listed here. You are going to count the books multiple times to make sure that you do have everything. Admitting students to the room. I'm on page 55 if you're following along. Please be sure that you seat them at random or that you assign them. Do not allow students to seat themselves. You will be provided with seating cards to use to make this easier. As always, you'll have 2 rosters. Please put a P next to the students who are there and A next to the students who are absent on both rosters. One of them you put outside the room once you start testing, and we'll come around and pick those up for attendance. The other then stays with the box, and that's what will end up getting submitted to College Board. So it's important that you have all of this completely filled out. Okay. Collecting students' personal belongings. We are going to follow option 2. We're not going to collect devices individually. We're just going to have students turn them off, put them in their bags, and then put those to the front or the side of the room away from where they're seated. There's multiple times in the script where they're told to turn their phones off. You can add this as well as they walk into the room before you even start the script. Make sure that they're doing that and everything's turned off and put away. That way we should hopefully won't have any problems. Those devices then and bags should only be accessed after testing is over. So if they've got snacks or drinks that they're going to want during the test, they need to take those out prior to the test, put those underneath their desks, and they shouldn't access anything until the tests have completely been collected and you've counted all the materials and everything is accurate. If students arrive late, you can admit them up until the point where you've started the timed testing. I'll point that out in the script as we get closer. When you administer the test, each section in sequence, read the script exactly as it's written. You're going to make sure here's another spot where you're going to count the materials, maintain security, and report irregularities. We'll talk a little more specifically about that a little further on. Timing the test. Students must be given the exact amount of time and the entire amount of time, no more, no less. You're going to record those in multiple spots in the script. I'll point those out to you when we get there. You're going to announce it at regular times. That is part of the script. As I said before, don't end section early. Allow all the time to expire. All right. Complete account of test materials. If you haven't figured out already, this is an important thing that emphasizes multiple times. You are going to use the chart on the back of the manual to record the serial numbers of the test books. So it looks just like this. So within this section here, as you can see in the example, you're going to record the serial numbers, and you're also going to, like these arrows here, the direction that you pass those materials out. You fill in this section and this part here. Answer sheet tracking numbers in the box, you don't need to worry about. That's something I will take care of. All right, test security. There should always be at least one staff member in the room. You need to make sure students aren't accessing inappropriate materials, calculators, phones, or anything during the test. Don't ever leave the materials unattended. A couple things to watch for in terms of security is wearable devices and earbuds. Those seem to be two of the more common things lately where we've had problems with students. All right, breaks. During the breaks, do not allow students, as I said, to access backpacks or lockers or any other materials. Students are allowed to have a snack during the breaks. They need to step away from the tests. And they can use the restroom. We just can't be sending them in mass. Breaks we're going to stay in the classrooms, and each room is going to break as they get to that spot. So also keep the noise level to a minimum or near nothing, because the rooms on either side of you may still be testing. They're not necessarily going to be breaking at the same time as you. Irregularity report. If you have any type of an irregularity concern, please contact me or Sarah right away, and we will walk you through that process, determine if it's an irregularity or not, what actions, what steps should be taken, and then we'll get the forms if we need to and help you fill those out. All right, if you're conducting standard tests, you're going to continue to page 63, and at this point, everyone should follow in the video and continue to page 63. We'll come back for those of you administering accommodations to this section and go over this a little bit closer. So page 63 is where everyone will start on test day. So you're going to pick up your materials in the LRC. They'll be ready by 7 o'clock. You need to pick them up no later than 7:15 so that you can be in the room and ready to receive students and get the test started on time. This is where you'll begin. You're going to read the script out loud as it's written. Again, this talks about for students who didn't attend a pre-administration, which is all of our students. We're not doing a pre-administration. Fields 1 through 8 will be given before the test. All students do need to complete those. Yes, I know they have labels on there, and some of that information is in those labels, but the expectation is that we're still going to fill out all of those sections 1 through 8 that is required. You can see there's shaded sections. These are the sections that you will read out loud. And then there's directions between that's for you. For example, here's where you're going to distribute number 2 pencils to any students who will need them. All right, so as we go through the instructions, you'll see we're going to skip A, we're going to use B, which is our collection of personal belongings, as we talked about how that's going to work in terms of collecting backpacks and having cell phones turned off. At this point, then, you're going to check students for prohibited items. You're also going to walk around and make sure that they don't have unacceptable calculators, that everything is appropriate. Like I just highlighted a few things again. smartwatches, wireless earbuds, highlighters. When you're looking at calculators, if you see anything that's got a QWERTY keyboard, that's going to be your best indication that that's an unacceptable calculator. Distributing answer sheets here on page 65. Again, make sure each student receives their own answer sheet. You'll note a lot of times that rules are written only because they were violated at some point. That's true in this case. So please check those labels. Make sure that each student is receiving the answer sheet that has their label on it. You can see I've crossed off a few spots. This is about students from other schools. We don't have anyone from other schools taking this with us. It's only our students on this day. As you continue through, this is going through the different fields they're going to fill out. Field 5 asks for their state ID that is written on the label, so they're going to take it off the label and fill in the bubbles. Yes, it seems redundant, but that is the expectation. That's the way College Board needs this to be done. Field 6, Field 7, we're going to get those all filled out. Field 8 as well. Here's where you're going to get to the point then where you're going to distribute test books. You're going to give these out in serial number order. Each book has a serial number. You need to record that serial number again in the seating chart on the back of the manual and the order in which they were distributed. When you get to this direction, please make sure on the back of the test book itself that the students clearly print their name, the school code, which is 143,796. That'll be written multiple times in papers you have, as well as the testing room code that will be given on your cover sheet. All right. They're then going to fill out the certification statement. Please walk around and check to make sure that they have correctly and accurately filled that out and signed that. If you're in a room that is doing the pre-recorded audio, at this point, then you're going to stop paying attention to this video and go to the pre-recorded audio portion because your directions vary. Everyone else, please pay attention, continue to follow along this section. So everyone else, right now, then the students are going to fill out fields A, B, and C. I'm highlighting these because these are important. It's their form code, their test ID, and their serial book number. So it's important that they get those correct. Please make sure that you do check the fill-in. They're filling these in and filling them in accurately. If they don't, their test will not be scored properly. All right, we'll continue with the instructions through here. Here's some specific format instructions. If you're a scribe or a human reader, we don't have anybody using the Braille format. All right, and then you're going to proceed to the appropriate script. So at this point, if you are using a script other than script 1, you're going to jump ahead in the video to the appropriate script so that you can make sure that you follow along. Everyone using script 1, you're going to continue and you're going to stay with me. This is for students who are taking the test with standard time. It could be students who have breaks as needed or extended breaks. They're still going to use script 1 if that is the only accommodation they have. And they're doing it with standard time and then that type of break. All right, section 1, the first one is the reading test. It's 55 minutes long. This is the point where if any students arrive late, you do not let them in the room. Students who arrive late up to this point can still be let into the room. And if they didn't fill out all of the bubbles, those can be done after the exam. As you start the exam, students get going, you're going to record start and stop time here. At this point during this first exam, it's important that you always post start and stop times, walk around checking, making sure they're working in the correct section. And this is a good time to complete that seating chart and make sure that you've got the serial numbers and everything correctly indicated on the back of the manual. Right here. All right. After the first exam, there is a 5-minute break before we proceed to section 2, the writing and language test, which is 30 minutes long. There's another section to indicate start and stop times. And again, post times, walk around the room. Before we move, that test moves directly into section 3, the math test with no calculator. That's 20 minutes long. Again, you're going to start posting the times here. There's a 5-minute break after section 3 before you move to section 4, the math test with calculator, which is 40 minutes long. You'll record the start and stop time here. And then you will, as you can see, proceed to page 103 for the collection of test materials. After the test, then, there's a few things that you need to do. So you're going to collect the textbooks and other materials. You're going to collect them in the same order you distributed them. And then we're going to use instruction C here if no students have completed the non-test information, the answer sheet, because as I said before, we did not do a pre-administration session. So all the students need to fill in a few more bubbles here. At this point, you'll have student answer sheet instruction booklets to give to students. They'll complete fields 9 through 13, which is their address. This is optional. It's good if they fill it out. If they absolutely refuse to, or they don't know their address, which we have some students have that happen to, that's okay. Fields 14 through 19, you can see we've skipped. These require parental consent. We do not have parental consent, so it is important that students do not fill out fields 14 through 19. So after they're done with the address, you're going to move to the end of the test here. You're going to finish the test. You're going to collect the answer sheets. And then you're going to follow these instructions before students leave the room. If you have to transcribe for any students who have written in the book, you're going to do that. You're going to make sure the seating chart's right, testing materials report form is correct, room roster has been indicated present and absent, and you're going to check materials. All right, after testing is done, there will be a Naviance activity. Students should be bringing their Chromebooks, and the counselors have put together an activity for students to do because you're going to keep them in the room until 11:45. At 11:45, students who have rides or who are walking home may be dismissed. They'll leave the building. If students are waiting for a bus, they should go to the cafeteria, and the buses will be running at 1 o'clock. All right, you will then return your materials to the LRC, and your testing day will be concluded. Thank you very much. If you have any questions on any of this, please be sure to see me right away. All right, administering accommodations. If you're administering the script 3 and 50% extended time, you will have students with accommodations in here. So please be sure to review this section starting on page 59. A couple of things that I want to point out in here on page 61 is breaks. So we've got extra breaks, extended breaks, breaks as needed. If you're in a room where students got 50% extended time and breaks as needed, this is going to describe this right here. Extra breaks are built into the 50% extended time, so that is already taken care of. If you are in a room with a student who has extended breaks, you will see that you're doubling that time. So if it's a 5-minute break, then you're going to take a 10-minute break. Additionally, some additional information here. If you're a human reader, make sure you read this section, or if you're a scribe, make sure you read this section here. Moving on, then, we're going to look at script 3, which is time and a half or 50% extended time. That's going to begin on page 79. So you'll start with section 1. You can see, as I said, there's an extra break built in here. This is not part of the standard time, that 5-minute break there. As you're going through, you're going to record your start and stop times here, as well as posting them on the board. You'll walk around the room, make sure everyone's working on the correct section. Make sure you complete the seating chart on the back. As we talked about earlier, you're going to record the serial numbers here, as well as completing these 2 sections. You'll continue on. You'll read the highlighted sections here. This is the 5-minute break. Moving on, you'll record the start and stop times for the second part of test 1. There's a 5-minute break after test 1 before moving on to the writing and language test, which is 45 minutes. You'll record your start and stop times here. There's a 5-minute break here, which is not part of the standard test. That's an extra break right there. Section 3, math test, no calculator. Start and stop times, 5-minute break. And then moving on to section 4, math test calculator, again, an extra break in the middle of that one. You'll record the start and stop times for that here, these two spots on page 83. There's a 5-minute break there. Finishing up the test, then you're going to finish up with these sections here, and then you are going to proceed to 103 for the collection of materials. This is going to be the same for all the exams. So you're going to collect materials in the same order that you distributed them. Make sure the fields 1 through 8 have been completely filled in. And then we're going to go to part 2, instruction C here for students that have not completed the non-test information, because we did not do a pre-administration session. So then you'll continue following instructions here. So the students will complete fields 9 through 13, which is their address. This is optional, but we do want students to complete this section. But if they struggle, they don't know their address, don't stress over this. We are going to skip section fields 14 through 19. You can see these have been crossed off. These do require parental consent, so we will not be doing those because we don't have that consent. So you'll move right then to this last section, collecting answer sheets, dismissing students. Follow the instructions here. If you do have students that you need to transcribe because I have permission to write in the book, this is when you'll do it, following these instructions. Finish up, make sure you've completed the seating chart, the testing room materials report form, the rosters, collected all materials. When testing is done, if there's still room or still time, your students should have brought their Chromebooks, and you'll have them complete the Naviance activity that the counselors have put together. If there's not time, don't stress. This is not something you need to assign as homework or anything. You are going to keep the students, though, until 11:45. That is when students can be dismissed from the room. If they have a ride or they're walking home, then they can leave the building. If they're waiting for the bus, they should go to the cafeteria, and the buses will leave at 1 o'clock. At that point, then you will return your materials to the LRC, and your testing obligations for the day will be completed. At this point, you've done your training, so please make sure you do the Google form to show us that. And if you have any questions, please see me right away. Thank you. All right, administering accommodations. Script 5, text-to-speech, pre-recorded audio, MP3 goes by different names, but any of those will work. If you are administering this, please make sure you're checking out this administering accommodations section beginning on page 59. You don't need to worry about the ATC format, but do please pay attention to the information for pre-recorded audio format. This is the information you do need to post on the board so that the students in your room will be able to see and understand what's happening. We're going to be using the streaming format, not the flash drive. Information here about administering the pre-recorded format, different steps you need to take. You will have Ben and Tanis available to assist you. Please note, though, there's some break information here that is important for everyone to kind of pay attention to. If you have students with extra breaks, those are built into the script typically, so that you'll have those. Pre-recorded audio does have those built in. Any students, though, that you got anyone with extended breaks, those are going to be doubled, so you'll get 10 minutes instead of 5, for example. And then breaks as needed is explained here as well. Continuing on, human readers, scribes won't be an issue with the MP3 format. So at this point, then you're going to proceed to script 5. Pre-recorded audio format begins on page 90. Again, we're going to go to C, students who need to download the test form. We will have an index card with for these students with the 10-digit SSD number written on it. And you're going to need to continue through reading the shaded sections for these students. When we get here, it is important that field A, the form code, as well as field B and field C, test ID and test serial book number, are filled in accurately by the students. Make sure you walk around and check to make sure these are done, as if they don't fill them in correctly, there will be issues with scoring. All right, you're going to explain the navigation system in here. We'll skip anything that replies to flash drives because, again, we're using the downloaded streaming audio. Section 1 is the reading test, broken into two 55-minute sessions with a 5-minute break. You are going to record the start and stop times for those sessions here, as well as post it on the board. You're going to walk around the room, make sure they're working in the correct section, and this is a good time to complete the seating chart on the back of the manual. It is important that you do that because you'll need that for day 2 as well. You're going to put serial numbers there. That way you can get serial numbers back to the right students and you can get students in the right seats because they do need to be in the same spot for both days. After the first test, there is a 5-minute break before you proceed to the section 2, the writing and language test. Again, broken into 2 parts with a break between. You're going to record your start and stop time. You'll do that, a 5-minute break, and then do that again here. And then that will get you through collection of test materials and the end of day 1 after that exam. So at the end of day 1, if there's time, you're going to have students complete the Naviance activity the counselors have put together. You're going to keep the students in the room till at least 11:45. After 11:45, they can leave. If they've got a ride or they're walking, they leave the building. If they're waiting for the bus, they'll go to the cafeteria, and buses will run at 1 o'clock. You'll return your materials to LRC. That'll be the end of things for you for day 1. For day 2, you're going to pick up materials in my office. You'll start here for day 2. You'll admit the students. Again, like I said, make sure they get back in the right seats and they have the same materials. We'll get going with them. Again, students who need to download the test form, reading the shaded instructions, and then for day 2, we're going to be doing math tests. So section 3 math test, 40 minutes. Recorded start and stop times here. 5-minute break after that. Section 4 math test with the calculator, broken into 2 parts with a 5-minute break in the middle. Record start and stop time. Here's the 5-minute break. Start and stop time, and you'll proceed directions. At this point, then you're going to proceed to the dismissal once you get down to section 4, which for you is just on the next page. This is part where it's the same for all students. So you're going to collect all the materials, test books, and all the other materials in the order which you distributed them. Make sure fields 1 through 8 have been completed. We're going to go to section part C here, instruction C, for students that have not completed the non-test portion because we did not do a pre-administration session. So there's a little bubbling that students will need to be doing. They're going to complete fields 9 through 13. This is their address. There is information with student information, answer sheet instructions for them to use, help if they got to abbreviate or anything like that. This is optional, so if students don't know their address or they're struggling with it, don't stress over it. Fields 14 through 19, though, we are not going to complete. That's why they're crossed out. These require parental consent, which we do not have. So you'll go from address to the end. You'll collect answer sheets and dismiss students. So when students are ready to be dismissed, you'll follow here. If you have to transcribe any answers, because they can write in their book, you'll do that following these instructions. And then you'll finish up, make sure the seating chart's complete, testing room materials, report form, rosters, and all the other materials are complete. When you are done then with day 2, this is day 1 instructions. When you're done with day 2, you'll return materials to my office. And at that point, students can go on to their class from whatever point you have finished. So probably a good idea to have some passes. That way you can write them passes to get to their next class. If you got any questions on this or anything, please see me. Make sure at this point that you complete the testing staff agreement Google form. Thank you. All right, administering accommodations for students with 50% extended time for math only. First thing I want to point out is starting on page 59, the section on administering accommodations. Please be sure to pay attention to this. The point I really want to highlight is here with administering breaks and extended time. If you got students in your room who receive extra breaks, those are going to be built into the script. Extended breaks would be doubling that standard length of time. So a 5-minute break would be a 10-minute break. And if you're with student break is needed, that's described here. If you are working with a student and you are either a human reader or a scribe, please sure to check this information here. So for extended this accommodation, you're going to start with script 1 because script 1 is standard time. So the first test is reading, so they'll still have standard time for that. It is a 55-minute exam. This is the point where you don't allow any more students into the room. And you'll go through the script 1 standard time, record information, post start and stop times, make sure students are in the right section, and complete the seating chart on the back at this time, recording the serial numbers. 5-minute break. You'll work through to section 2, writing and language, 30 minutes, post the start and stop time here. And then you'll follow this instruction here. For students with math only extended time, you're going to turn to script 3, before section 3 on page 81. So at that point, then we will turn here. Sorry, I turned too far. Right here, section 3, math test, no calculator. So this is students going to have 50% extended time. So now we're in section 3, time and a half. So they'll have 30 minutes instead of 20 minutes for this exam. Record your start and stop time here. Continue on. There's a 5-minute break then before you go to section 4 with the math test with the calculator. This is now 60 minutes. There's an extra break built in. You'll get through that. You will record the start and stop times for both sections here because there's a 5-minute break between the 2 sections. And then you'll finish up section 4. Once you're done, you'll move to page 103 for the dismissal. And then this also is common for all students. So after the test, we're going to collect all the materials. We're going to do it in the same order they were distributed. Make sure students have make sure students have filled in fields 1 through 8. And then we're going to use instruction C. If no students have completed non-test information, because we did not do a pre-administration session, there's just a few more bubbles they need to fill in. We'll start here with fields 9 through 13, which is their address. It does say here that this is optional, so don't stress if students don't know their address or are struggling with this for some reason. We are not going to fill in fields 14 through 19. You can see they've been crossed off. These do require parental consent, and we do not have that. So you'll then proceed to the finishing, collect answer sheets, and dismissing students. Before students leave the room, if you need to transcribe anything, after they leave the room, if you need to transcribe for students, that's here, only if that is an accommodation. You need to make sure seating chart is complete, testing room materials form is complete, roster is complete, you've got all materials. At the end of testing then, if there is still time, students should bring their Chromebooks and they should work on an Naviance activity prepared for you by the counselors. If there's not, again, don't stress about it. Students do need to stay in the room until 11:45. After that time, they can leave. If they have a ride or they're walking home, they can leave the building. If they're waiting for the bus, they'll go to the cafeteria and wait there until 1 o'clock. You will then return materials to the LRC, and you'll be done testing for the day. At this point, you're done with your training. Please make sure you do the Google form for the staff testing agreement and see me with any questions. Thank you.